Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Divided Films, the podcast where we talk about movies that audiences and critics do not agree on. I am JJ, and with me always is my co-host Keith.
Hello.
And today our special guest is our good friend Johnny Dellaluna. How are you, Johnny?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to be here in Long Island.
Yeah.
It's as long as I thought it was going to be.
Johnny revealed our secret location. Johnny.
And our underground lair here.
Yeah.
You did happen to get lost in New York.
Appropriately.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, man. So Johnny also co-hosts his own podcast, The Winning Ticket, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. That's we live in New Jersey, me and a couple of friends. Gambling is legal there, especially for the NFL season. So if you guys want any advice on any bets to take, especially during the NFL season, Winning Ticket Podcast is the place to go.
All right. Thank
Great
you,
name.
Johnny.
Thank you.
If you live in New Jersey, I don't know about New York.
New York, you might have to, just hit up a couple of those apps.
Right.
You'll find one.
Fair enough. So today, as was hinted on, we are talking about the 1992 Christmas classic, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I don't know about you guys, but I am super stoked to talk about this movie.
Me too.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah, Merry Early Christmas.
It will be Christmas when we release this episode, so let's just pretend it's Christmas for now.
There you go.
So this movie falls into the category of a negative response from critics and a mixed to positive response from audiences. The exact scores, 32% with the critics and a 61% with the audiences. And the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, a change of venue and more sentimental... I can't read. A change of venue and more sentimentality and violence can't obscure the fact that Home Alone 2, Lost in New York is a less inspired facsimile of its predecessor. So that is the consensus. Are you guys surprised at this disparity, or what do you think?
I personally am. First of all, using a word like facsimile to describe Home Alone 2
A little advanced.
seems a little much. That's such critic speak. 32% seems really low.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you think of other films that are in the range of that? Like that just come to mind?
Funny enough, we agree that like a lot of times the scores are not reflective. For example, in a previous episode, we talked about Hook, and that percentage for
that's
Hook
low.
It's 23% or something.
Wow.
So the thing is...
Criminal.
Yeah. It's not really truly reflective. I think what happens with a lot of these scores on Rotten Tomatoes is, whether you're mixed or, low or you're really low, it all counts just towards Rotten.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe some people were just on the fence and some people really hate it, but they're all kind of counted on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe... if you average every critic's personal score, it'd be higher. But we'll see where we stand.
I do think if 100 adults saw this movie, 78 would be like, what? No, like I think it's in like
a 68 would be.
I think it's important that like we were kids when we did see this.
I did watch this movie a lot of times. I do have a lot of
and
nostalgia.
I do like this movie.
Sure.
I want to clarify, but I don't want to be like a devil's advocate. But is a seeing it as a kid and seeing it, the adult in me
certainly
does see it as a Christmas classic, heavily flawed one.
Mm-hmm.
But the kid in me is like, this is a fun movie.
Right.
Shut up.
Right. I tend to agree with you. I think too with this film in particular, it's good to remember the context it was in.
Okay.
1992, much different time. I mean, the biggest, aside from Christmas, I think most people remember this movie as the one, it's got that famous shot of, the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
It was the way that, like, Kevin traipses along New York and gets in and out of the airport.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore.
You can't, no, you really can't. I rewatched it recently, and you watch it, and, I mean, he's allowed to, like, go and check into a hotel by himself.
Oh,
he's
man.
allowed to, so he's going to board the plane, and he's like, ooh, I dropped my boarding pass.
I want to get into
Right?
the step-by-step process a little later.
Yeah,
about how
okay.
Kevin gets on the wrong plane, because a lot has to happen for him to get on that wrong plane.
This movie itself is very coincidental. Like,
it is.
It's
like lightning is
New
striking.
York is one of the
constantly.
biggest cities in the world.
Right.
Not the biggest, but it feels so small.
He's running into the same characters. So real quick though, I think that the consensus I disagree with, that it's less inspired than the predecessor. I think Home Alone 2 is better than Home Alone 1. This is my favorite Home Alone movie.
Cool.
And I would argue it's
better
better
than 3 and 4.
Well, I mean, those are untouchable.
Home Alone 3. We left them again.
We left.
Oh my God! Well,
we're a whole new family.
They were planning. They were planning a Home Alone 3.
With
no,
Macaulay
they did
Culkin
a Home
and
Alone
everybody.
3.
No, but with
the
a planned trilogy with Macaulay Culkin, they did.
Right.
You can only do this so many times.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I feel like they give Kevin more to do. So I give you that the first act and the third act are very similar, but the middle, when he's in New York, he's doing so many more interesting things than
True.
Like, in the first movie. He's like buying groceries. Like that's not really
Yeah.
fun. Here, he is like seeing the sights. He is like tricking the hotel with like this insane scheme, which I don't know how it works. So I kind of want to go through this movie the way we kind of did Hook, which was kind of go through each act.
Sure.
So the first act of this movie, it even opens with the same exact shot as the first one. It's the same shot of like the house and people kind of walking around. But now you kind of have one of my favorite scenes in the opening is that Christmas choir scene. That scene is freaking hilarious. This movie is funny, man.
Buzz got away with.
Oh my God!
Like everyone, they had to hold a trial, and they're like, "Dude, you caused all of this."
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things too is both Buzz and Kevin
and Woody.
Woody.
You crippled the piano teacher.
Yeah, that you talk about slapstick. That was one of my favorite.
When that poor teacher falls over. Man, that was funny.
She gets so the tree falls on the piano and her. And she actually backflips into the ground.
She backflips, and it's just like, oh wow, she died.
In a movie that's chock full of slapstick, that's probably one of the best ones.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Something with like the wet bandits and all that.
Yeah, or the sticky bandits.
That's right.
They're known in this
bandits.
movie. Oh, yeah. I think that's where like maybe critics are kind of getting annoyed is with how like wacky and slapstick this movie is.
Yeah.
I feel like critics kind of like their movies to have a little more sense of realism. Yeah. Unless it's animated. If it's live action, they kind of want a little more grounded. But I don't know. For me, if it's funny in a movie like this, if it's making me laugh, then by all means, like go all the way cartoony with it.
I think we should have child critics. No, I'm serious.
Like that's funny.
No, it's like
let's just say it.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Because if you're,
right.
Because like there is an adult. Like if you see Star Wars as a kid, it's forever embedded into you, and if you see it as an adult, it's just a bunch of Muppets like doing it. Like I get it. And all these critics are just like older. They're like and even if I remember, Home Alone isn't that high up on the scale.
Even the first one, critics were not
happy about it either.
They were able to buy into it, of course. Right. But this one, they're just like, it's too cartoony. I would like to hear some you don't have to hear my kid voice, but this movie, audiences went for it.
Right.
Yeah. People really enjoyed it.
How would it play to kids today, I guess? People who didn't grow up with it.
Kevin's not flossing.
Right.
Kevin's not flossing.
He's doing more interesting things. I think Kevin, if anything, in this movie is more relatable than the first movie, because he is a little older now, and he kind of has more he's a little more sarcastic. He's a little more clever, and has a little more. He's like more of a little adult than just being a little kid in the first movie.
I give credit to Macaulay Culkin. I think for us following him from start to finish.
Well, when he is being scheming and he is tricking adults, I think then that's where he shines. But there's a couple scenes where he's kind of being more serious,
and it doesn't work,
and
right?
It feels like he's line reading. So
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and that's
I can't think of child actors who would do. I mean, I'm not gonna. There was one critic that said he's our Shirley Temple.
Oh, well, I even have a Shirley Temple comment about a later scene with the Duncan's toy chest.
Okay.
But the other thing, too, I'll bring up, he is a little older, but this movie has kind of what I feel like is a time warp issue. Okay. Because this movie was made and released 2 years after the first movie. But it only takes place 1 year later. And here's but here's the problem, and I noticed this in the first movie, they say Kevin is 8. This movie, 1 year later, he's 10. So, like, it's just a gaffe, but I like to imagine that Kevin has a disease where he's aging twice as fast as other people.
Did that drop it 10% for you?
That fell off at that point. I just get a kick out of little gaffes like that. I've seen this movie so many times that I pick up on little details.
Have you seen quite a detail?
Yeah.
Have you? I'm trying to remember the first one specifically, like the ending. Were the family like, we'll be less assholes? Was the uncle like, kid, you're all right?
That Frank will always be an asshole.
That uncle deserved his comeuppance. Like he deserved to be attacked by pigeons.
Yeah.
And I Kieran Culkin's like, you get to sleep with me.
I love Kieran Culkin, man.
You know you're used as like torture. Like no one wants to sleep with no one wants to sleep
right.
Uncle Frank has one of my favorite quotes. And this is a very quotable movie, by the way. I always quote this movie. But one of my favorites is in the beginning when he's showering and he's singing that song and he goes, "Oh, you're cooking, Frank." The song doesn't even go like that. And then later in the movie you hear the recording, you get to hear it again. I just love that. I just like, why does he say it that way? Little moments like that really get to me.
It's funny. So you mentioned that, and we mentioned that that this might come across as like an animated film of sorts. Because I thought front to back this was like, and it helps that there's he's watching The Grinch in the limo at one point.
Yes.
And I said this whole time I'm saying this is essentially a Chuck Jones cartoon stretched to massive length, and that's backed up by the wackiness of the events, the characters. I mean, the music, which is one of my favorite things.
I always get into John Williams did the score for this.
Music is top.
Oh my god, it's brilliant. I mean, John Williams, he's done so much, but when I was listening to the score, I mean, it plays throughout. It's a 2-hour movie. Can't remember many points in the whole film where there's no score, and it's fantastic. It's one of his best.
I love the score. It definitely heightens the movie, and it's one of the most memorable parts about it. I mean, it's the same theme as the first one, but I don't know, it just. It syncs so well with every scene that I don't know. It brings that element of magic to it.
Yes, it does.
It definitely elevates the material.
It does, because I think without as good a score, I think this movie would be a little less memorable, in my opinion.
There's one moment of the score that, as a kid, gave me chills. Is when Kevin is quickly trying to change the batteries in his little voice thing, and the music is like suspenseful. It's like bum 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 bum.
The alternate dad is like comes into frame.
I used to have that toy.
Did you really? The recorder?
Yeah. I heard that this movie invented that toy, which then became a toy.
Wow! Wait, really?
That's what someone told me, but maybe I'm just really gullible.
It was on the subway, like, hey, you know that toy, and we're like, please leave me alone, sir.
I believe what people tell me on the subway, so.
He gives you a card, like, did you know?
I love how he uses it too. I mean, obviously throughout the film, but even at the beginning, we're still in Act 1 here, and he's answering his mom, just going yes, but records himself and plays it and going yes. which is what a kid does. It's like it's so like
Kevin's a very
cartoony. Like
he's a very like relatable kid, and I think he's more likable now that he is like a little more clever. I think he's more of a kid that little kids will look up to. Than just relate to.
It does a lot of good setup too.
It does.
I think the setup of the
first act is lots of seeds being planted, like
the clown. Yeah, you're right. The clown she's giving him, and the whole concert scene too, which I can't remember if they did this in the first Home Alone. They kind of gave Kevin a reason to like not want to be with his family.
They just in the first movie, all they did was get mad at Kevin for like knocking over like soda or milk. That
I guess very stereotypical.
But it was such like this is like
mad at you.
Yeah.
But this is different where he's like framed and watching that scene too. Well, because Buzz, first of all, Buzz just like puts 2 candles by his ears, and the entire audience is laughing like you wouldn't believe.
They think it's like the funniest.
I think like Adam Sandler janitor,
right. Everyone in the back is laughing, and no way they can see that. Then he starts drumming on his head, and like everyone's busting a gut, and I'm like, oh my god! And of course, Kevin's mom has this look of horror on her face.
I do like that Kevin's parents. Like I like Kevin's parents in these movies.
What a horrible town.
Yeah, it's right.
Well, if I were the principal, I'd go, how dare you?
Well, that's why the piano player looks back at them like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. And her comeuppance is falling off the stage.
Right. Like she gets punishment for it. And it's so unfair. It really is. I don't get why. I don't know. I don't get why people feel so they just don't
see
through
the
Buzz like we all do. They do.
The trial. Like Buzz actually has like a good debate. Like I just I love my brother.
He says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
And it's just like wow, everyone is.
I would have liked more Buzz.
This is like OJ. He did it. He did it.
How did he get away?
That's right.
How did he get away with it?
This is 2 years before that happened, so maybe.
I also thought before I rewatched it, I thought he punched him, but he doesn't.
He punches him.
He shoves him.
Which, by the way, if you look very closely, some kids fall before it reaches them.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, he pushes one guy, and the entire chorus, which had to be 30 kids, they all fall except for Kevin.
I put that into the Christmas classic category. That can only happen in a Christmas
movie. Classic scene.
Very cartoony. It goes back to the cartooniness of it.
And by the way, of those 30 kids, like Buzz and one other kid are like 18. Everyone else is 10.
That's so true.
What are they doing in this choir? It's little things like that, but it's like I'm forgiving this movie on all these
of course.
inconsistencies.
It's important to set. I like how they set Kevin up for wanting a little bit more revenge.
Yeah.
I'd like to apologize to my family for whatever displeasure I might have caused you.
What?
My prank was immature and ill-timed.
Immature or not, it was pretty gall-darn hilarious.
I'd also like to apologize to my brother. Kevin, I'm sorry.
Oh, Buzz. That was very nice. Kevin, do you have something to say?
Beat that, you little trout sniffer.
I guess since we're in the first act, this is a good time to bring up. This is this is a very popular sequel, but I think Home Alone, John Hughes just wrote it as I have this idea, this one idea, this original idea. That one was, I think, one of the biggest movies of 90s.
It was a top 10 grossing movie. I mean, it still might be, but it definitely was on the list for quite some time.
So they went to John Hughes and Chris Columbus, he can get Home Alone again.
Right, yeah.
And let's move the location a little bit.
Oh, and speaking of Chris Columbus, I think that someone saw Home Alone 2 from Warner Brothers and was like, we want him for Harry Potter. Because there are a couple shots in this movie.
That was the one that sold them?
There's a couple shots in this movie that I'm like, this feels like the Sorcerer's Stone, like in the first act again when it's overnight and the newspaper that says the wet bandits broke out, it lands on their doorstep, looks like the scene in Harry Potter when the letter to Hogwarts flies through their mailbox. It has the same sort of feel to it. And then even later when they get to the toy store and Kevin's like, whoa, what a great story. It kind of feels like when they're in Hogwarts for the first time looking around. I just think that I would love to think of some guy with a cigar being like, get this guy.
Right, I have to say with Chris Columbus films, because I know he's done a lot of, he's done Mrs. Doubtfire, he did the Night at the Museum movies, big classic films.
Yeah, Pixels.
He did Pixels.
Oh.
But he has this way of his, which I think adds to this is a 2 hours on the dot movie, which feels a little bloated, but shot after shot, anytime Kevin's in a new place, 6, 7 establishing shots.
Yeah.
The music swells. You could it's just all big around him.
Yeah.
And you could see that this repeats in all of his films afterwards. And I don't know what Chris Columbus did before Home Alone.
I'm
sure he was
Discovered
around,
America.
but yeah, he did. That he did.
What did he do?
Discovered America.
Discovered America.
All right. 1492, Discovered America.
That's his production company.
Home Alone.
1492 is production company. But there's this one trivia. John Hughes said he took the sequel very seriously and wrote multiple drafts of the script. And I'm like, you probably took the hardest thing was the second act. It's you just copied the first and third act.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it made it better, I would say.
There's a lot of reasons why this works for the supporting cast alone works.
Yeah.
And the one movie that we could kind of compare it to is The Hangover and Hangover 2. And the only reason Hangover 2 is a carbon copy set in a different place.
Right.
And that one failed. People just noticed it. It doesn't. It does some set pieces differently, but even the ending, it's it did it again. And I don't know. There's something magical, and I would say the score, the supporting cast, or I still think the strength of the lead character.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he may have slipped, but child actors, I can't think of maybe Elijah Wood at the time,
Right.
But he was definitely the top He got $44.5 million for this.
Wow.
For this role, the biggest salary for a 12-year-old.
But with the Hangover movies, I feel like those movies are so high energy that's quick to get exhausted from that sort of formula.
Oh, true.
Whereas this one, it is kind of like paced more. We can catch your breath.
It's very slow.
Yeah,
it really is.
So,
until the I guess we would call the third act is when like finally the sticky bandits and him start like they're.
There's a couple scenes in that second act we'll get to where I feel like it definitely. Like, I get a little impatient nowadays with them. But, like, real quick, though, the end of the first act of the sequence where he gets on the wrong plane makes no sense. But I'm, like, appreciating every step of the way. Because as a kid, I totally bought it.
Yeah.
Like, this movie tricks you into thinking it's better than it really is because of the direction and the music. But then as an adult, you see through. But as a kid, you totally buy it. Like, I totally buy that a man would look identical to Kevin's dad from the back.
Yes, right.
That I remember getting lost in a store one time, and I did end up like,
fair.
I found my dad, and I hugged him from the back, and the guy was like,
get
the hell off of me.
That's happened to like a lot of kids.
He's still my dad ever since.
He took me in. So I buy.
All right, you're kind of cute.
I totally buy that. Like when they get on the plane, the flight attendant's like, go find an empty seat. It's like, it's the 2 days before Christmas. There's an empty seat on this plane.
It's certainly, and that would not fly, no pun intended, today, because there's just no way he would have even gotten on.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have gotten to take a seat. Also, you would think if you're Kevin, he does look and see that his quote unquote dad like puts his carry-on away and sits down. So I guess, but like, I don't know, if you're a kid, wouldn't you want to see like family of what, like 12? Wouldn't you expect
today's kids will not understand that because they don't know pre 9/11 where like a rom-com where you could run into the thing and like, I love you. That can't happen.
Yeah, I know. It would change things a lot today.
And even just to add some more circumstance to make this happen, he sits next to a guy who doesn't speak English. So like he goes rambles on in French.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Have you been to Florida before? And the guy just rambles on in French. So he puts on his headphones just as the flight attendant is saying, "Welcome to this flight to New York."
Yeah, right.
It's very convenient.
Yes.
He's like blasting.
I think these movies in this time too, they no loose ends are left loose. Like they even go out of their way to show, whoa, the one plane's heading to Miami, the other one's heading to New York. Like they're going way away from each other.
I love that radar shot. It's so cheesy.
Everything is. It's like every coincidence happens.
Yeah.
Nothing's an accident anymore.
But you know what? I kind of respect it because nowadays I feel like movies try too hard to convince you that something is likely to happen.
True.
Like, oh, this is why, and like it's not crazy. This movie's just like, screw it. He's getting on this plane in New York, no matter what it takes, no matter how unbelievable it is.
I miss whimsical movies.
Yeah.
Like the music adds to, like, as you said, I suspend a lot of disbelief. Even watching it again, I'm just like and maybe it's that child in me going like, I like how it happens.
Yeah.
Like he has to be lost in New York somehow.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a realistic thing because that makes me. Yeah. I'm along for it.
It's enough. It's like enough for you to believe it all and to get it, and it's not too wacky, but it's also not like too. I don't know what would be too realistic. I don't even know what that circumstance would be.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
The wet bandits just like take them back to New York. Like,
maybe actually that probably would have been something like too wacky. Like maybe like 2 rows behind, the wet bandits are like, oh, we just hey mob, we just busted out. Now we're heading to New York.
Luggage.
Like that would have been too much.
That was one of the drafts actually. Like they know.
In my mind, I know their like little like musical theme song, like ba na 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 na. I'm now picturing Kevin in his seat, pan to like the seat right behind him. It's the wet bandit.
Right, yeah.
All right, Marv, here we go. With the music, I'm picturing that. That would be amazing if that happened. I would love that. Because even like you notice the truck they are hiding in almost runs over Kevin. Like they don't.
Oh my God.
They almost run into each other a couple times. It is a small city.
Yeah.
Kevin's not here. Kevin's not here.
Kevin's not here.
Kevin's not here. Kevin's not here.
Kevin's not here.
Kevin's not here. Kevin's not here. Kevin's not here. Kevin's not here.
What?
I love the montage where he's like exploring New York City. That's like a classic movie sequence. That's a famous movie sequence.
When we watched it, we kind of
this movie
travel his journey, and he's going all over New York.
Yeah. The way I put it, he is like a ping pong around Manhattan,
for sure,
like a pinball going around, because he's in Rockefeller Center.
Yep.
Then he's at like Chinatown. Then he's in like Battery Park, World Trade Center. Then he goes back up to like the Plaza Hotel, which is at Central Park. Like this movie definitely does not know Manhattan geography. But then again, only New Yorkers would know that. If you've never been to New York, then it's like, oh, I guess, sure.
Yeah, you assume that like New York is maybe like 20 feet big and everything.
You can walk the whole island in a couple hours.
Yeah. Which is for those listening who are not from New York,
it
definitely doesn't work like that.
No.
There's a lot of painful subway rides in between a lot of those
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Home Alone tour, like it takes you it's an all-day tour.
Not for nothing, around Christmas, that actually wouldn't even be so bad for people who really want to explore the city.
I hire actors to
like you pull up the bird woman like comes out.
Oh my god.
Duncan is
you have like Beanie Baby pigeons.
Right.
You get that guy on the Santa on the stilts has to be way down.
That was so funny. Now it's just like
I would go on that. Actually.
It's like a poor looking Minnie Mouse, like with her face is half out because she's counting her money. That's
and a fanny pack.
Yeah, like that's what that would be replaced.
Yeah, you get like those crappy Times Square people now.
Yeah.
So
that would be Marvin. They would be some.
They totally would.
Version
Harry and Marv would be like.
Now I'm picturing them just popping out of every conceivable corner of New York City
with
their theme song, like "All right, Marv." Like no matter where you go, wherever Kevin is, they are always like right nearby.
It's like, hey Harry, I'm Batman. No, Marv, you're Spider-Man. Shut up. Just like
then you see a guy. No, I'm Spider-Man. Yeah, right. No, I'm Spider-Man.
Did you guys notice that Marv in this movie is way stupider than he is in the first
one? They dumbed him down a lot.
He can't even spell the word sticky.
Yeah, that's right.
S-O-T. He is like mentally handicapped.
What happened to his hand again?
He just wrapped it in tape because he's the
because he wanted to.
That's right.
And then Harry's hand was burned, I think, from the last movie.
Oh, I thought it was cool that shot when he taps him. I guess the throwback to the first one.
Yeah, you can see he recognizes him.
And they run into the same woman who he harassed.
Yes, again, totally happens in New York City.
Like the same people all the time. Yeah, so when he gets to the Plaza Hotel.
So now we're in Act 2, right?
Right.
Act 1, and you would say as soon as he gets to New York. That's
the end of Act 1. Act 2 starts with him exploring.
And this is a long Act 2, I think.
It's the meat of the movie. You know, it should be.
Some would even call the when he's in the house doing it all again. That's even maybe still part of Act 2 as well. I don't know. It depends.
Well, I would say that
this is a topic of serious discussion. When does Act 2 end?
Chris Columbus on the phone right now.
You're going to build a wall between Acts 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No politics on this podcast. So,
although we should.
No, not on a word. All right.
All right. Not a word.
Okay, so we get to the hotel, and another quotable scene where he's like doing the slow voice, and he gets the woman on the phone who
that was funny.
I don't know how she believes that's a person, but
yeah.
Like, hi, this is Mr. McAllister. This is Mr. McAllister, the father. I love that. When I used to work at a Trader Joe's, I was telling someone about how much I love that line, and a few days later, I had to call the store about something. Like I was gonna be late to work or something, and I got that guy on the line. He goes, "Hi, this is," and it was his name, and I just immediately went, "This is Mr. McAllister, the father." I've never been more proud of a prank call in my life. And he immediately knew it was me and laughed. Just a little tidbit there. Home Alone 2 applies to real life situations.
Certainly.
So I
run into Tim Curry in hotels all the time. I find.
I think that's one of his top
I love Tim Curry.
He's brilliant. He is in everything.
Yeah. He makes every movie better. Another reason this is better than the first one. It has Tim Curry in it.
Curry.
That's why. He is so great in this.
I love later in the act when they're doing the whole shooting thing, and he jumps down and he's like, "There's someone crazy with a gun," and he's army crawling away.
I still laugh hysterically.
That's a great. I love when they look at the guard You were smooching Cliff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's not true. That whole sequence, I'm still laughing every time.
If you ask anyone who hasn't seen that movie in a long time and you say something like, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal," that's probably the part that people are gonna remember the most.
That'll jog their memory.
And that hasn't aged in the slightest. That's still hysterical.
Everything that old guy in the movie is saying, I love. Like, I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't.
Yeah, right.
That's so great. And then they totally buy it.
I thought that was a real movie for the longest time.
Me too.
And then
rewatching, you could tell.
I think I should have written it down, but in the Home Alone 1, he was watching like the first version of that movie called like Them Ugly Saints.
Yeah.
Or Them Dirty Saints. And in this movie, they titled it Them Dirtier Saints.
Yeah.
I like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, everything in the hotel is funny. Like, that's why it's more interesting than when he's at home. He's kind of getting into more hijinks now.
Right. The whole Rob Schneider gag with the
Schneider
works
too.
Rob Schneider's good in this movie.
Rob Schneider works well. Like,
cast is top notch in this movie.
This is Rob Schneider's best film.
I had no idea.
Home Alone 2 is up here, and then everything else is down.
Right next to Home Alone 2 is Norm of the North with Rob Schneider.
I just said.
Wait!
I'm totally being sarcastic.
I thought you were talking about North.
No. You were looking at me like, "Are you serious?"
Norm of the North.
I do have a soft spot, I have to say, for the hot chick. Stupid movie. I give that movie like a 0%, but I'll watch it.
That's another episode waiting to happen.
Exactly. Let's say that for next season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even they bring back the uncle singing with the Bozo the Clown thing, and I think, Keith, that is your favorite scene.
I love it.
You imitate that all the time with the balloon doing the weird arm movement.
Yeah, it's like robot-looking thing.
Like, Kevin is like, he should be like a puppeteer when he grows up, because he is manipulating this balloon clown thing. Like, I don't know how it works.
I hope he got into a good college. I think he deserved, like, he is a smart kid.
He should be like an engineer or something with those traps.
Seriously.
He knows how to draw floor plans. Like, he's pretty good. So, this is just, there's more of an adventure, I would say, in this movie.
Yeah, this definitely, I think where the first one, I mean, the novelty of the first movie, right? No one ever really saw like this unless you saw a cartoon, where it's essentially this kid just playing prank after prank after prank. And I think this movie, I guess it follows the golden rule of sequels, right? Which is to raise the stakes in every possible way.
Absolutely.
Bigger city, he meets, more people, encounters new people. And this is, again, to add to the runtime, it's a lot of sentimentality that's kind of built in. Like, okay, we understand you like these characters now. Oh, now you're going to love them because, Kevin buys the turtle doves and he's a good guy. And even like, I think like Catherine O'Hara gives a really terrific performance.
I think she's great as the mom. I think she's a relatable mom. Like, she's kind of like the... every great mom,
in an era where like usually the moms were very cookie cutter, where they just essentially answered to the dads, and like the dad relationship was explored more. She's definitely like
she's the heart, like
she's heart, and she's got an edge to her too. She gets angry, she blows up.
Out the hotel staff.
Yeah.
And another great sequence, the Kevin's not here sequence, when they realize he's not there.
I love that.
That again is
very cartoony.
The music builds up that scene so well because you just are anticipating this reaction. Like, the tension is there, and you just cannot wait for him to find out it's happened again.
Yeah.
And the reaction is perfect.
Yep.
I love her screaming. It's so funny.
Looks right at the camera.
The shot where Kieran Culkin like turns with the bag and just like the close up of the two old people, like what?
Yeah, right.
Kevin's not here. Like it's a funny scene. Even like it's not overly cartoony, but it's just the music, the shot itself.
It's something we don't see in today's comedies. It's the humor now is more sarcastic. It's more tongue in cheek. It's more like usually you exploit like the awkwardness of situations as opposed to like, I mean, that's a bit, right? Give this to Kevin. You set it all up. Kevin's not here. Like
but
that.
Character
it
based.
takes and it takes time to set up. And those punchlines, which again are same thing with the pranks in this movie. It's a lot of people. I feel like people don't have the patience to wait for a joke setup anymore, unless you're watching like stand-up comedy or something. But in movies, like the humor, it doesn't come in the slapstick as much anymore.
I agree.
I did go away from that a little bit.
What makes these jokes so funny is because you do know the characters. So it's not exactly what is happening, but who it's happening to.
True, yeah.
So it's funny because we know Cameron's mom, and we know she has a bit of that edge to her, and we know that she's going to flip out. So that's why it's funny. Even like, with the traps, we've come to like love to hate the sticky bandits.
Right.
So it's funny when they had bricks thrown on them or something.
Of course, yeah.
You can't just throw a brick at anyone and it's funny. It's only funny when you throw a brick at Harry and Marv.
Yes, exactly. Maybe 4 or 5 times too.
Yeah. And again, with that, you brought up The Hangover before. I feel like The Hangover has started comedies where it's more about the situations than the characters.
Yeah.
Here, it's still about the characters. That's why, that's why I think it works.
Well, to show our appreciation for your generosity, I'm going to let you select an object from that tree that you can take home with you.
Free?
May I make a suggestion?
Okay.
Take the turtle doves.
I could have 2?
Well, 2 turtle doves. And I tell you what you do. You keep one, and you give the other one to a very special person. You see, turtle doves are a symbol of friendship and love. Now, as long as each of you have your turtle dove, you'll be friends forever.
We mentioned it does get a little slow in this second act, and one of those scenes is the toy store scene, when he's talking to the toy store Mr. Duncan. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, for them, is their Shirley Temple scene. Yeah. It kind of has, a glow to it, the shot. And he's talking in a very overly sweet manner, which I found kind of out of character for Kevin. And it's just supposed to be a cute little cutesy scene.
It's like a hammering where it's just hey guys, this is the theme of the movie. Yeah. That's what that whole scene shouts.
I'm a good guy. Here's a 20.
Right, yeah, right.
This turtle dove to somebody will be friends forever. I wonder if he ever talked to that pigeon lady again.
Probably not.
No way.
Also, Mr. Duncan does this thing where when Kevin walks away and looks back, he's gone. He's under the counter, right? It's like James Franco in Spider-Man 3.
Right. Did they have to do that in this movie and just make him
he's like a
god
ghost
or something?
Yeah. He's like a ghost apparently.
I hate that trope.
Yeah.
I hate that trope.
You look and
that's littered throughout movies of this era too.
Yeah, it's
and
just
of course, and then everything's a music cue too, so it's it's it repeats itself.
I've seen that a lot of times.
But I still don't have I'm okay with, because I know what's come before that scene and what comes after it in terms of okay, I guess you need this scene just to
I sat through it as a
tug
kid.
at my heartstrings.
Right, exactly.
Right. You did a good job.
Nowadays, I might fast forward to that scene, to be frank. But back in the day, I sat through it, and I was able to get through it. But nowadays, and for me, it stalls, and I'm like, all right, this is not the strength of the movie.
Going back to a point you made earlier about Macaulay Culkin when he's the mischievous guy and playing pranks, he's perfectly cast. He's wonderful. These sentimental scenes, I think part of the reason why it's slow is because it's not particularly well acted by Macaulay Culkin.
I agree. It's very much like line reading.
Because Macaulay Culkin has this delivery that's not really animated at all, and he just kind of talks a little bit fast, a little bit slow, and then does a thing where he lifts his eyebrows, and it's the same no matter what he's talking about.
It's rehearsed. I feel like he's over enunciating my mother gave me this cash.
Yeah.
And I was going to waste it on candy and rot my teeth.
Right,
and
yeah.
That's not, I know.
Sounds like you're doing a speech exercise. My mother gave me cash, which I bought coupons with.
It's he just goes through the lines, which to someone who would defend that is okay. I mean, what kid is going to understand the gravity of what he's saying like that? Yeah. Kids don't really talk with they don't. They don't have this gravitas about
I'm like, okay, this is the puppy dog. He gives full on puppy dog eyes scene.
Yeah,
and you're probably right. I imagine the critics saw this and because they're older, they're just they come on, they lower the score, they're hitting the negative buttons. I could see. Now that we're adults and we're saying this, I imagine the adults seeing it at the time were like,
They know the machine. They know okay, well this part's gonna be heartwarming, this one's gonna be wacky, and it's almost like someone operating this film. That you hit so many buttons that it's it is a very neat film. Like I said, not a lot of loose ends that are left. I don't think any really.
Yeah.
So. This is not a movie that really made critics probably think a whole lot.
No.
Probably checking their watches an hour and 10 minutes. Because I think the first time he meets with the Sticky Bandits doesn't come until close to an hour into the film.
It's right after that scene.
Yeah, it's when the midpoint.
Yeah,
Which if you think about it, most audiences and I guess most critics who like the first one, that's kind of what you're watching this movie for.
They probably saw that in a lot of the trailers too. I imagine. where it's like, they're selling the traps again because that's what people love so much about the first one.
Yeah.
And you're right, like, it's halfway through the movie and we still haven't even had an encounter yet.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But then
kill this kid.
They were good. It's like
this movie. They even say out loud, like, we're gonna like.
If Harry had a gun the entire time, I'm not advocating it's good to shoot a kid, but like. He lets Kevin get away with so much when, even he's like, let's take a walk in the park. And he just, like, grabs him by the arm. It's like, you're not going to pull the gun out a little bit and, like,
He doesn't realize until afterwards that
PG movie, but, like...
you only show the gun for so long.
It's a PG movie, but they're like, I'm going to kill you, kid.
Oh, yeah,
they are constantly saying, like, even as... Quick fast forward to the third act before we hold on here, but... He even says, like, he's shouting to the roof where Kevin is, like, I have a mind to shoot you in the head.
Yeah, right.
It's
like, nobody... Is that just New York?
That's another guy threatening a kid.
Yeah, right.
The pigeon lady, she meets her in the second act. It's the same thing with the shovel man.
I would
I'm
say...
scared, you're all right.
Right. It's the exact same thing, and I would say that's the only thing that is not as good. I do say Shovel Man is superior to Pigeon Lady.
To Pigeon Lady.
Sorry, Pigeon Lady. You know what I realized this time around? I'm like, who is this person? Yeah. I've never seen her before or after.
This actress?
She's an actress. Yeah, the actress. She won an Oscar.
For what?
For what?
For My Left Foot.
What the heck is that?
It's the one that she was the foot.
That's not really. It's someone who can only communicate by typing with. Right? Do you actually know that?
I have no idea what this is.
That's a real movie.
It's the Daniel Day-Lewis first Oscar. It's an Irish movie. She's an Irish actress. But she's retired.
But he can only communicate by typing with his left foot, I think.
He writes poetry with his feet.
Yeah, but he can't talk or like.
That's nice,
I don't know if you know if he move his arms or anything.
It's a famous like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, like it is a very famous film, but like,
she was the foot.
She was cut. She was the right foot.
No, I was like, oh gosh, this woman is an Oscar-winning actress.
Yeah.
I've never heard of her before. Never heard of her after. I still don't know her name.
She was in another movie this era, Angels in the Outfield. Do you remember
She was in that?
Yeah, she plays the
foot.
She plays the foot. Danny Clever. His darn foot, Danny Clever. You know.
They're talking about typecast.
She plays the owner of the I want to say halfway house. That's not the right word. The house where the kids live. Boarding house.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Orphanage.
Yes, the orphanage. She takes care of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his friend.
Okay.
And she has like that speech in that movie about like, well, if players can pray to God, why can't they believe in angels? And she was a very was supposed to be a moving speech, but again, it's a little hokey.
Yeah,
I agree with you that Shovel Guy has more to his story
than Pigeon Lady.
Pigeon Lady, but this is something like the dove. Like I knew the doves were coming.
Of course.
And he just kind of runs. I know this is the third act.
Yeah.
But he leaves his apartment random. Like where the hell is Kevin?
Oh, when they're opening gifts, right?
They're opening gifts.
Yeah.
Like, where the hell is Kevin to give the doves?
20 seconds,
Also, like
he's lost again.
Yeah, he's always getting lost. Maybe in the third movie, Lost in New York again. So with the Pigeon Lady scene, that's I would say the second scene where like they're above what, Carnegie Hall is where they're above.
Yes. So right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're talking and like. Yeah, it didn't take much for this lady to kind of spill her whole life story to this kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't really think I was buying... I think she acted it as best she could, but it was just this whole thing about, I had a family, the man I love left me, I'm afraid to love, and that's it.
Yeah, it wasn't really interesting.
I'm poor.
It was so generic. It was just... there wasn't much to it. I'm like, I don't understand this pigeon lady.
And the lesson was like, don't not follow your heart, or like your heart has been hurt, but don't ignore it or something.
It's like it's okay to love. It's okay to have your heart broken, because it's better to love than to not love at all.
Yeah. That
kind of thing. It's like she's afraid of getting hurt again, but it's like don't be afraid to get hurt because it's better than not.
It's better than being freaking homeless.
Being a pigeon
lady.
One of the many lessons of this movie.
Right.
Many
Talk about someone who needs to be home alone.
Yeah. You can't be home alone if you don't have a home.
Get this woman home.
Yeah. I feel bad that she's still a homeless pigeon lady at the end.
Yeah. They should have invited her in.
Kevin gives her a turtle dove. Maybe he should have given her like
it's
some
like,
money
hey,
or food.
You must be freezing cold because it's fresh snow on the ground. We're staying at a hotel that costs That must not be.
That's an expensive hotel.
Expensive hotel. In the prices in 1992, he spent. I say this only $1,000 on room service.
That's like at least
all that
like
he
$6,000
did.
or $7,000.
Yeah,
now.
like that seems.
And he was there for 2 days.
Yeah, he was there for 2 days, and he was ordering. I mean, he ordered everything, absolutely everything.
It's wish fulfillment. Like the second act is just like if you got New York
of course,
to yourself,
yeah.
you eat limo and pizza.
My adult heart sank when he opens the cabinet and there's all sweets, and I'm like, oh my god, you touched those, and that's like $6.95 for a cookie. Like, Kevin, don't you know that? You know.
And in today's they have like the marker on.
Yeah,
it,
right. And he just
but
grabs
nowadays,
all.
as a kid, then that's like the adult, and he was like, that's so expensive. As a kid, it's like, gimme.
Right, yeah.
All this.
Part of me wishes this is fan fiction for Home Alone 2.
Here we go.
So he invites the bird lady back to their very nice hotel. She has dinner and all that. Then like an epilogue happens where her and Uncle Frank are in the shower. And it's just like, oh, Kevin, I'll slap you silly, you come back around here. And then it finds out they fall in love. And, you know, it's a happily ever after. Well, who's the one? Oh, he is? Wasn't one of them, who was ever in the shower? That was the same guy? He was...
Uncle Frank is in the shower, but he's married.
I'll have you know that in one of the drafts, Frank does fall in love
with I want the other... Well, who's the aunt, then? She gets no screen time. She's very forgettable.
She has no screen time. She just knows what 7 plus 7 equals. 14.
Yes, that's right.
I know the most like obscure lines from this movie.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a shower scene between Pigeon Lady and Uncle Frank.
I'm sure
that's the big takeaway. I mean, hey, you know, just throw the bird seed up in the air, right?
That was a good. Throw all the bird seed at them and.
The bandits.
Yeah, it's like her pigeon army.
I'm trying to think what else happened in the second act.
Yeah. So after that encounter.
Before we move on to the third act, because I feel like once he resolves to like stop the sticky bandits, that's where the third act takes off. But if there's any other scenes in the second act, I mean, everything about this second act is like a kid fantasy, like the shot of the pizza and the limousine, that shot of the candy or the ice cream,
and that's why we loved it.
That's why we loved it.
Yeah,
that's
and
that's fulfillment.
That's why I guess
like you were saying,
adult critics, you know, it's like, all right, we get it. This is a kid fantasy, and I guess they weren't able to kind of appreciate that sort of like feeling of. Like, man, like if I had a hotel to myself and I was 10 years old, like I'd go crazy.
Right.
You know?
And the second act too was strangely enough, it was more setup because now it's the McAllisters are now, how do we find Kevin? Okay, we have to talk to this police officer.
I
we have to see the credit cards, right? Yeah. And then even the wet bandits are, you know, they're planning who would be dumb enough to rob a toy store on
I know
who.
With the parents. The parents, though, they had to add more scenes because in the first time they did it, one of the criticisms was like the parents don't really care that much, and you can get a sense of that, like
in the first movie,
No, in the second, like
on the first cut of
the first cut of this movie, they had to reshoot. They had to add more scenes to show like Catherine O'Hara being more like you have to be more worried,
especially if it's happened a second time. You're a little less forgiving.
That's why she screams and faints.
The cop is like, you guys are pretty bad. Put a leash on this kid.
That cop actor has a great look on his face when they're like almost joking about it. He's just kind of like, what is wrong with you people?
And Miami turns out to be a dud.
Oh, yes.
That's some nice karma for the family, I think, really.
Another movie, I feel like I know at least one other movie that uses that version of It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, ironically, to show about, like there's something it's something crappy happening around the holidays, but they're playing that song just as kind of an irony, like, it's not really right. I mean, it really sucks.
Krampus.
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way does that. Like it's the most
Jingle All the Way does that?
It's the most ironic.
When they throw up the bouncy balls and are all fighting for the bouncy balls, it's the most wonderful time. Yeah, you get that a few times. It's like a Christmas cliche, I guess.
Yeah.
But this movie started it.
Sonny.
Yes?
Nothing would thrill me more greatly than to shoot you. Knocking off a youngster ain't gonna mean all that much to me. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
But since we're in a hurry, I'll make a deal with you. You throw down your camera, and we won't hurt you. You'll never hear from us again. Okay?
You promise?
I cross my heart and hope to die.
Okay.
Okay, kid. Give it to me.
So they set up then that's I think with this act, it's a lot of setting up, the next things in motion, and then these plotting, sentimental scenes that are still nice. And maybe if it's, that time of year you're in the mood for it, it feels nice and fuzzy.
The Christmas fuzz. You can kind of see it.
Right. Like you could forgive it. You could say, oh, well, that's nice. Turtle doves. But again, in a movie that's 2 hours long, it's really stretching a lot of things.
Especially when you watch it over and over again like me.
Yes.
I watch it at least 3 times a year.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie at least 20 times.
And especially if you're watching it like on TV, where I hate watching movies on TV. I don't think many people do it anymore because everything's streaming. But they pigeonhole commercials. Again, no pun intended.
Oh yeah.
It's like the weirdest moments. So this movie probably runs close to 3 hours on TV with commercials and everything.
They drag it out.
You're gonna lose people here. ABC Family. I mean, easy day for scheduling, but we only have to schedule 3 movies playing in your afternoon.
You write them a letter,
right? Just like
we're not ABC Family.
Home Alone 1 is like an hour 45, so they could stretch that to 2.5, and then So it's. I mean, this is not the scheduling podcast.
I think they did.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, that could be one. I think they did because they made Home Alone 3. But then I think they made Home Alone 4 as a straight-to-TV movie.
Yes, they did, yeah.
But I think was ABC Family at the time.
I feel like they still go on.
There might be a 5th one.
There's probably other, spin-offs.
I think, what if they made, 10 of them? We just, they're in a bunker somewhere.
Can you guys riff, can I just take a quick look?
Would you guys be okay in this age of reboots? And would you be okay with, Macaulay Culkin now... He's like, Catherine O'Hara, can you watch The House for us?
Didn't they do a parody, with him growing up recreating the scenes?
They
Google.
did. It was a Google commercial.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, this would be such the 2019 thing to do, is to have Macaulay Culkin play the new dad, or playing Kevin, playing himself as Kevin as a dad, and then his son now goes
Home
to
Alone
the same
Jr.
thing.
Joe Pesci's in a wheelchair.
No, it's Joe Pesci's kid.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's right. Taking after
Josh Gad.
When Dad died, he left me this legacy.
He was born with the same M on his head.
With a sticky abandoned.
Listen, if Scorsese got him to do The Irishman, maybe people could get
Bring
Pesci out of
Bring him back for Home Alone.
You see, the scene opens. The movie opens up with Marv. There's a head injury, and he's just we gotta get revenge on the boy who did this to our father. It's just they pull the plug on him, he can't be a vegetable for.
Yeah, Marv would be senile from all those hits to the head.
They'd be dead or dying.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's plenty of YouTube videos of doctors assessing the damage.
Why did they do that? Of course, they get real doctors to be you're gonna die. It's
we know. Yeah, we know that that would.
They get lawyers to be this is not real. It's no, of course not. It's fiction.
Yeah. Kevin would go to jail. No kidding.
Yeah. I can tell you this: the last Home Alone movie that was released was in 2012, and it was called Home Alone Holiday Heist. And it featured, I'm looking up the information, but it features a female kid.
Oh, I don't like that.
So, yeah, right?
Kavette McAllister.
I think that everything after two at least was I think it was non-Kevin. It was another character.
That was her name.
Well, non-Kevin.
Non-Kevin. I happen to, as an aside, I know you guys can't see our computer screen. I happen to click on Home Alone 3, and Google lists it, funny enough, as a crime action movie.
Oh, wow.
Opposed
the
to
third one.
Featuring a young Scarlett Johansson.
Yes. Now, okay, here's the thing with Home Alone 3. I was too young when Home Alone... I wasn't even born when Home Alone 1 came out, okay? Mm-hmm. And Home Alone 2, I was just a baby. So I was too young to watch these movies when they first came out. I was the right age when Home Alone 3 came out.
97.
So I saw that movie first. I used to watch Home Alone 3 all the time, having never seen the first two. Then I saw the second one, loved it, saw the first one, and just went back to the second one.
You put down your Home Alone 3 posters. This is a lie.
That's the second movie, or it's one of 2 movie trilogies I... just through circumstance, watched backwards.
What's the first one?
The Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't kidding. Scarlett Johansson is in Home Alone 3.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
She's totally in it. Yeah. Also, the kid from Max Keeble's Big Move is the main kid.
Yeah, Max
and
Keeble, that's right.
Gilbert, no, not Gilbert. French Stewart.
French Stewart's on it.
He's the thief.
No, it's 4 thieves. That's the thing with Home Alone 3, I must say, is, crime action, because that movie... is even more ridiculous because it involves spies and terrorism. The reason they're trying to break in, it's 4 spies. They're trying to break into this kid's house because he doesn't realize he has a a toy car.
I thought you were gonna say bomb.
Yeah. Well, he has a toy.
The way you're holding your hands right now.
He has a toy car that he doesn't realize has a computer chip in it, which is the programming for a weapon of mass destruction.
They got lucky with this movie. Like, I'm happy.
This is riding the line between the first one and that one.
This was that era too, where like people didn't know anything about computers, so they're just like, oh, well, this computer chip does this. It's like everyone just buys into
chip
it.
Blow up a city, okay.
Yeah, it's like
Hackers
that's
were
so
cool.
not. Yeah, right.
Hackers were cool.
So yeah, the third one really went insane. But the second one.
Yeah, getting back to 2.
2 is the one we're watching, okay? So 2. I think we can move on to the third act.
Yeah,
right.
The last leg.
This is where I think the critics do a sharp dive.
Yes, especially I know like Roger Ebert, for example. We quote him a lot on the show, but he was very critical of like the violence in this sequence, and I guess I can understand if it's a little jarring for real people to get bricks thrown on them and whatever is happening. But again, like it kind of is a real life cartoon.
Right.
Us kids are along for the ride.
I think as a kid, I kind of understood like this is not real. Like you can't really electrocute someone or drop an anvil on their head or something and they'll like survive. Like I know it's not real.
It's all in the reaction, right? So like because I saw that too. I heard the biggest criticism of this movie was the violence, and you think like, okay, like getting hit with multiple wrenches in the head, that's gonna hurt, but it's all in the reaction, right? Like when Wile E. Coyote gets smacked by like an anvil, he accordions up and walks away, and that's kind of what. Again, I'm gonna say Chuck Jones a lot in this podcast, but
Chuck Jones,
that's what I see.
Looney Tunes director.
Yeah, seriously, that's what it is. And like Joe Pesci, I think the biggest example of that is when Joe Pesci's head's on fire.
Yeah.
He dunks his head in the toilet of gasoline, and then comes up, and of course his face is smoky, and like his hat's been blown, and his hat's blown up. That right, if you see that, and you're like, okay, this is clearly not real because he would be dead.
His head would be gone.
Well, the skeleton part too is the clearest example of it being a cartoon.
Yes,
and I'm like, you're not along for this.
It's so preposterous. Like, of course it's not real. But I do.
What a great gag, though. So that's part of why I love this movie so much.
I would
getting an actual like not of course pre CGI like just like an actual skeleton that was moving its mouth and screaming too.
With the afro. That was great.
That's the scene that turned that's
where it's like this is so ridiculous. Even though the scene you mentioned though when he puts his head in the toilet. There is like a few seconds of Joe Pesci casually walking around with his head on fire.
Right.
I would, if I was the director, I would have had like 10 seconds of that. Like,
I
just want maybe like a GIF of that image of Joe Pesci being like,
Especially like Joe himself, like not a double or anything. Because honestly,
his hair is on fire.
Something goes wrong, and that fire goes somewhere it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that beanie was made of on his head.
Did he do the flip too?
That would have been
really him?
funny.
Yeah.
Scorsese taught him on Goodfellas how to do that.
That was acrobatic, man. And these guys, I do get a kick out of how they're constantly like, remember last year, but not really learning the lesson.
That was funny.
I do like the stairs scene. They do it again. Remember last year? But then it's even worse with that dumbbell.
Right.
Like they don't have teeth after that. So I think the traps are better than the previous.
I think so too.
I was gonna say the previous season. Season 1 of Home Alone.
Either you're for the violence or you're for the cartoon. Or you're against the violence or you see it as a cartoon.
Right. Exactly. I don't think I mean personally, I don't think this was way violent. I mean, compared again, maybe we're numbed now. Right.
It's Looney Tunes.
The way that we're numbed in 2019. This was 27 years ago.
I mean,
so it's
even as a kid, I would watch like Die Hard, and like seeing people get riddled with bullets, and so for me, I'm like. I kind of can tell the difference between like kid-friendly violence, I guess, and then like this more kind of adult, like serious violence.
Yeah, and
I think kids getting bored by it, honestly.
You think so?
I could see kids today not knowing like
they want blood.
What we talk like the whole airplane scene would be completely like how could this happen?
Yeah.
I think unless a kid watched it by Christmas, I do think if you watch it around the Christmas season, it goes up 10 points. Whatever you may think of it.
Right.
To me, it's not Christmas unless I watch it.
That's right.
This is, to me, like I have like trifecta of Christmas movies I must watch every Christmas year multiple times. It's Home Alone 2, Elf. Nice. I must watch Elf a couple times. And A Christmas Story I will watch multiple times on Christmas Day. Those are my three. Do you guys have any other Christmas movies that are up there?
For me personally, I know some people disagree with me on this, but I love Jim Carrey's Grinch.
I will disagree with you on that.
That's one that I play a lot, and I'm also a big fan of the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's a cute one.
It's probably one of my favorite of the Christmas Carol retellings. Speaking of Jim Carrey, not the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol. That movie blows.
Okay. We'll maybe look into that one.
So there you go. So I love Grinch, Jim Carrey. I hate Ebenezer Scrooge, Jim Carrey.
Oh, fair enough.
So that's the balancing act.
What about you, Keith?
Freddy vs. Jason. No, I'm with you on the Muppet Christmas Carol and Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, that's
and also Christmas Vacation.
That's a good one. That's a staple.
But I do, just like I love Halloween, my 25 days of Halloween watching, I do like my 25 days of Christmas watching. Like there's like the Grinch. I think we watched that last year, and there's some really good parts to it.
There is.
I know Jim Carrey hated it.
But by no means it's not a perfect movie. It's very uneven. But man, I love Jim Carrey and his like glimpses of brilliance. I'm in stitches.
He's the only reason I think to watch that movie.
Yeah.
But there was I had a surreal moment with that movie once. They were playing it at work last year. It was like an event, like come stop by the conference room. We'll be playing it. No one went inside.
Wow.
And it was like it had glass walls. This room, so I could see from where I was sitting that day, just an empty room that like the Grinch was playing to no one. It was like one of those
sad.
That's iconic.
It was like one of the most surreal things I've ever seen. But so I think this movie kind of is like up there with the most memorable.
I'll have to add this to my list honestly, because rewatching it, I'm saying, because no secret, I guess, from people who've been listening, I really enjoy this film.
Yeah,
I think it's a really really good movie.
I think it's on actually like in terms of Christmas movies. Yeah, it's up there. It's on some list like official list.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely. I'm it's a must for a lot of people.
Clearly not on Rotten Tomatoes list, but
no, well,
I think
I like to think there are more people like us who like it, and maybe if they listen, they should vote on Rotten Tomatoes and bring this up to maybe a 70.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's one sweet sentimental moment that I do think works at the very end when Kevin and his mom are reunited.
Yeah.
That I love that moment.
Right.
Like, the other ones maybe don't work as well, but these two characters we've been through for 2 movies, and I think that is just a really nice like mother-son scene.
Oh yeah,
and especially that like little epiphany she has about like where would he be?
Yeah,
right. And he's by the Christmas tree, and of course Rockefeller's. That's probably
the best place to do it.
The most iconic of the Christmas sites, certainly in New York.
I think this movie totally gets every New York location you'd want to get. Yeah, through the montage or at the end. I feel like it takes this concept of putting Kevin in New York City and like taking that concept, like it didn't squander its concept. Basically.
Yeah, right.
And Catherine O'Hara, she has a lot of stuff going for her in this movie. She's funny when she needs to be funny, and I think she also is like very sweet when she needs to be. Like
she's terrific.
She is like also a lot of the heart in this movie, along with like Kevin.
She's a great actress, and I hope she gets like some type of like a career award down the line.
Right.
I watched Beetlejuice the other day, and like she also kills it in that.
Every role,
she's a comedic gem, I would say.
Yeah. I need to watch Schitt's Creek. I've heard great things, but that's another day.
Right. Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things about her.
And even the dad, John Hurt, I feel like is very grounded. Like I totally buy him as this dad. He's such a dad. Like it's ridiculous how much of a dad he is. Like he is like perfect for these movies.
But he's not like this era too. Like it was always, if it wasn't like the workaholic dad, it was the doofy dad that like didn't get anything that happened. But again, this was a realistic dad. A dad
That's
who's
true.
Oh boy, I lost my wallet.
He doesn't fit into any of those. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, he's not a trope. I feel like he totally gets like the balanced tone of this movie, where it's like sort of grounded, but then sort of like just being in this crazy situation.
Right.
Like he gets it basically.
Yeah. Right.
So props to him. And then, the other, you don't see as much of the siblings this time around.
Mm-hmm. They don't need to be.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Buzz gets his like thing at the end. Right. He's like, hey, Kevin.
Yeah. That one kid
There's
was
an
about
arc,
to,
I guess, for him.
Right. I like Buzz in this movie a lot. I wish I had more Buzz because he's a little more. He's like a good adversary for Kevin. He's like
Home Alone 3. Yes, more Buzz.
Home Alone 3. Feel the buzz.
Buzz cut. He does have a buzz cut. I would have liked maybe like a TV show about these McAllisters. Like there's like a good chemistry going on, like a spin-off.
Calling around with the Callisters.
And the one kid went on to be in Pete and Pete. This is like right before Pete and Pete started.
Who was that?
Pete.
Oh, Pete. Wait, which I don't
the
know.
orange hair kid.
Oh wow.
Oh.
The orange
I
hair
always forget
sibling.
how many like siblings. And
I just know Danny Tamborelli. That's all. That's
it's
all
the
I
kid
know
who
from
played his
Pete
older
and
brother
Pete.
on the show.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, well.
How's that for a name drop on this podcast?
Danny Tamborelli.
Danny
Shout
Tamborelli,
out.
please reach out to us.
We'll get you on here.
I'm terribly sorry, sir, but I'm afraid you're mistaken. We're looking for a young man.
All right. I believe you. But my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
On your knees? I love you.
You gotta do better than that. I love you. Maybe I'm off my hinges, but I believe you. That's why I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna give you to the count of 3 to get your lousy, lying, low-down, 4-flushing carcass out my door. 1, 2.
So, I mean, is there any other part of this, like, third act that we want to touch on before we wrap up?
Well, this, I mean, it goes without saying, it's a very traditional Christmas movie ending.
Yeah.
Happy ending. You know, hey, Kevin, why don't you open up the first gift for
Christmas
us?
morning,
Right.
Christmas presents.
In a magical thing kind of way, too. This is probably one of those few Christmas movies that, like, there's really no, like, Santa magic whatsoever.
Yeah, in fact, in the first movie, Kevin's disappointed to learn that there's no Santa.
Right.
And in this movie, when, like, Kieran Culkin is like, Santa came, he kind of brings that knowledge back with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know if, he's going to come to
It's that Santa magic it's very tiny. You find out because I was thinking, too, where are these presents from? Then you find out they're from Mr. Duncan. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Mr. Duncan.
Yeah. And
he's
then
such a great man.
And then that final shot where he's hugging the pigeon lady, which is very
it's nice.
It checks all the boxes of warm Christmas movie.
What more do you want, critics? That's all I like.
Right.
What more do you want?
And then the comedy comes back. You spent $967 on room service, and then he's out, and
then he got a beating for that.
Right. Yeah. His
dad seemed pretty mad about that. And I think this is a good sequel because Kevin has taken what he's learned from the first movie and applied it to this one.
Right.
So I like any movie that kind of like throws back to the first one and it also builds on it.
Of course. It improves on. I do like this better than the first one too.
Yeah.
I can say.
I have a personal campaign to convince everyone in the world that Home Alone 2 is the best Home Alone movie. And sometimes people look at me like I'm crazy, but I think I'm starting a wave here.
I can't wait to see the reactions to this then. Like,
yeah.
People are like,
we're all in agreement that we think this is a solid movie. Maybe not the greatest movie ever, but certainly more warranting of a 32%.
I think now that I'm coming up with a score in my head, and I have a little asterisk next to it, I think it's so appropriate.
Okay. I mean, maybe we can move on to that then. I mean,
cool.
What percentage, again, 32% with critics, 61% with audiences, what percentage would you give this movie?
Cool.
I would give it, any other time of the year, I think it's a 78.
Okay.
But during Christmas time...
Christmas bump?
It gets a big Christmas bump. It goes to an 88. I did say 10 points.
Wow.
I think it does. Well, there's the closer you get to Christmas, maybe it gets higher.
Yeah.
But a good 78.
Christmas peak.
I probably would never really watch it. If not
aside from
But I wouldn't even good Christmas movies like Elf. I'm only gonna watch them around Christmas time.
Right.
I wouldn't watch. Sometimes they play Elf in like July on like TBS. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
But I wouldn't just because it's Christmas based. I wouldn't knock it a ton, which you're not. Because you're saying 78 to 88.
No,
you're not knocking.
It's still a flawed movie.
But some people might say oh well, if it's not Christmas time, this movie I wouldn't watch.
I still think it's funny.
Exactly.
It's still funny.
So what is your official score then? I mean, if it's Christmas time when we're releasing this, then it's.
Let's go with 88.
It's definitely not October right now. I'll tell you that much.
It is definitely not.
I'm gonna black out. It's definitely not November.
All right, Johnny, what would be your?
So, I think for for me personally, anything that's like under a 50 is like a movie like you probably wouldn't watch again, and like a movie that's didn't really have an impact on you. So needless to say, way over 50. I'm kind of in Keith's range. I think I would give it, if I would give it between like a 75 and an 80. I think it's a solid film. It's a movie I would recommend people seeing, certainly if they haven't seen it before, and a movie that I'm going to make a conscious effort this holiday season to watch with a little bit more frequency. So I would probably give it. You know what I'll do? I'll give it an 80.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I agree. For what this movie is, I think it does it very well. And I don't think it's like aiming low and hitting low either. Mm-hmm. I do think that there was like some care in this. I mean, Chris Columbus even admitted like they basically made the same movie again, but I think they elevated it.
Yeah.
I think as much as I love this movie and I Christmas time I have to watch it, but I probably would be a little lower just because sometimes I like to subtract some points from my nostalgia. It's like I know I'm biased, so I'm trying to just make a biased adjustment.
Yeah.
So personally, like I love this. It's like in the 90s, but if I'd be like an objective thing, I'd give it like a 75.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So I led you down the primrose path there, like being like, this movie's great. Just kidding. I'm giving it a lower score.
I mean 75 is still pretty good.
Yeah. It's a 78.
Yeah.
But I think around Christmas time, if you're drinking with friends, drinking like not even a beer, just a good you can mixed Christmas drink.
Yeah. You can
snowing outside. It's definitely an 88. You're having fun with the family.
You can do a drinking game in this movie. I'm sure you can find one.
Every time he uses his stolen credit card.
Every Tim Curry line basically just take a shot. Mr. McAllister.
So we rated higher than the audience on this, but
we did.
It looks like we're siding with them.
Even though we're closer to them at least than the critics. So I will then officially decree that we are siding with the audience. So it's always good to side with the people, especially on Christmas.
Yeah.
Critics are just a bunch of Grinches, I say.
This is a movie that you look with a critical eye. There's a lot you could say and think about, but I think to enjoy it for what it is, which I think some critics need to start doing a little bit more of, and instead of being so nitpicky. I think this is a very enjoyable film.
Yeah.
No one's gonna. If you know what you're getting into, what's funny about this film too, I didn't get to mention, I don't think you even need to see the first Home Alone to really get into it.
I know I didn't.
I didn't rewatch the first Home Alone before doing this.
It's a good double feature.
It's a good double feature.
That's true.
And this is a movie that, again, you know what you're getting into, and if you don't, by the end of it, if you don't have such a good time, then then maybe you have to start, evaluating yourself just a little bit. What this movie's so fun. Even the audience at 61. I mean, what more do you?
Hopefully we give it that Christmas bump.
Right.
I know. Well, I am happy with this consensus. Thank you, Johnny, for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening this holiday season, and join us next week for our final episode of the season. It's going to be a big one, so tune in for our last divided film of the year. Thanks.